and we'll begin with the calling of the roll.
Councilmember Hampton.
Blessed to be here.
Councilmember Kennedy is absent. Councilmember Madison.
Here.
Chair Gordo.
Here. And Mr. Kennedy did notify us that he was unavailable, so he's excused. We'll jump right into our agenda. Are there any speaker cards for matters not on the agenda?
No speaker cards.
No speaker cards are submitted, and so we'll move right into approval of minutes, and this is approval of the October 13th, 2021 special meeting minutes, and then cancellation notices for October 20th, 2021 and November 1st, 2021.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Hampton.
Yes.
Councilmember Madison.
Yes.
Chair Gordo.
Yes. Those matters are approved. There's no old business or new business, and we have one information item, and this is a presentation
Mayor?
of the. Yes, Mr. Hampton.
Is the police chief with us?
Yes.
I was wondering if this is okay with you, Mayor, if because I'm sure that there are probably extra people watching the meeting today because there was recently a shooting on Los Robles and Eldora.
Mm-hmm.
If the police chief could briefly speak on that, so that the residents of Pasadena know what our police response is to that. If that's fine with you, Mayor, just
given,
a update.
Given the gravity of the circumstances, I think we can take quickly that matter. I probably shouldn't dwell too much into it because it's not on our agenda, but Chief, if you could just give a brief update on the situation.
Sure. Yesterday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we got information from the fire department that they had transported a young man to the hospital who had been shot in the head. The officers got there. What we later learned during the investigation is the shooting more than likely occurred on Los Robles and Eldora, and the driver of the vehicle in which the victim was in drove north where they contacted the fire department. That's when they took him to the hospital. So it appears that the shots came from a vehicle. The victim was in a vehicle. It wasn't necessarily a car-to-car shooting that we know for sure right now, but he was shot from a moving vehicle at Eldora and Los Robles. Again, the driver of the vehicle drove north where they contacted the fire department, and the fire department transported the victim to the hospital in critical condition. I will add that we do have someone in custody, excuse me, for that shooting, but I can't release any further information at this time.
I don't want to ask. I'm not trying to ask a question, but as because of this shooting, what is the police department's response? I know that it's typically actual patrols in the neighborhood, etc. If you could just elaborate a little bit on that, and then.
Yeah, I don't know if you know or if you recall, there was an incident that occurred on Sunday at Villa Park, and we're not sure if this is related or not, but we are going to provide extra service within that area from Los Robles over to probably Fair Oaks in that general area, because we're not exactly sure what the motives were, but we are going to have high visibility in that area for now.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief. And while I know it's only someone in custody, I'm glad that we have someone in custody that we believe I hope we have the right person and good work.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll move on to our agenda, and this is for information purposes. This is the California Race and Identification Profile Act, although what is known as RIPA. I'll turn it over to Chief Moody to introduce the matter.
Thank you, Mayor. In July 2017, or back in July 2017, that former Chief Sanchez, I believe, came to this body and reported that we may be able to start collecting RIPA data early, which is the Racial and Identity Profiling Act of 2015. We hired a consultant and we started looking at how we could collect the data early. We contacted our city IT department and we determined that at the time, we didn't have a solid platform or technology platforms to start collecting the data. Since that time, we've upgraded our systems and we are in the process of collecting that data. We have Executive Administrator Karen Peterson here who will give you an update on our current status.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon. I almost said evening, members of Public Safety Committee. My name is Karen Peterson, and I am the Executive Administrator for the Police Department. And this afternoon, as Interim Chief Moody stated, I'm here to present a briefing about the progress the department has made with the implementation of RIPA, the California Racial and Identity Profile Act of 2015, which is also referred to as AB 953. Next slide, please. Thank you. On October 3rd, 2015, as we stated before, the Governor State of California approved AB 953. Appreciate that. The Racial Identity Profiling Act of 2015, and it was enacted as law. There were different tiers of reporting start dates based on the number of sworn peace officers for the agents that the agency employed. For example, Wave 1 agencies included, but were not limited to, California Highway Patrol, San Diego County Sheriffs, Los Angeles County Sheriffs, San Bernardino County Sheriffs, and the like. They began collecting data in 2018. Pasadena Police Department was part of Wave 4. So what that means for us is that Pasadena PD began collecting stop data information on January 1, 2022, and we're scheduled to start reporting that data to DOJ by April 1st, 2023. So an overview of the legislation, it requires that all city and county local law enforcement agencies in California, as well as the California Highway Patrol, peace officers throughout California state and university educational institutions, collect perceived demographic and other detailed data regarding pedestrian, traffic stop, and searches, to include consensual searches. The legislation established and tasked the Racial Identity Profiling Act Board. State Attorney General actually established the board, and there is only one RIPA board, and I understand there may have been some confusion. Individual agencies are not required to create individual RIPA boards within their agencies or committees to analyze or investigate the stop data collection. That's done only by the state RIPA board. The RIPA board is 19 members, made up of community advocates, spiritual leaders, academics, attorneys, and law enforcement. And their mission is to eliminate racial and identity profiling and improve diversity and racial identity sensitivity in law enforcement. And the job that the board is tasked with is to analyze stop data and civilian complaint data on an annual basis, work with law enforcement to review racial and identity profiling practices, review law enforcement training, and issue an annual report. The details of those findings you can find at openjustice.doj.ca.gov. So what is a reportable stop? That's always the big question, and it was a question that came up during training. A reportable stop is any detention of a person by a peace officer and or any peace officer interaction with a person in which the officer conducts a search, and that includes consensual searches. It does not have to be both as a requirement, it can be either or. The data that DOJ has asked us to collect is on here, and the items that are in green, date, time, duration, location, a officer identification number, years of experience, those requirements within the application that do it created for us are automatic, so the officer doesn't have to take the time to enter that information. Other data to be collected is, of course, the reason for stop. Was a stop in response to a call for service, actions taken during the stop, Was contraband or evidence discovered, seized, and what was the result of that stop? The last portion is the officer's perception of the person that they're stopping. That's a number of areas, and that's perceived race and ethnicity, perceived age, perceived gender, perceived to be LGBT, limited or no English fluency, perceived or known disability. The data collection tool that we're using is Survey 123 by Esri. And Esri is an application software that our IT people are already familiar with. They already have licenses. It didn't cost us anything to utilize this tool. They're familiar with these products. The application tool was designed and is still maintained by Dept. The submitted data lives on the Esri Cloud server that's also maintained by Dept. And the field application is accessed by a city authorized device. Data is not saved on the device once it's submitted. Once they hit all the collect, submit, it goes straight to the cloud server. And from that cloud server, it'll go through a process that they have a group of people that look at and clear it to make sure there's no personal identifying information, exact locations, names of officers, names of private citizens, because DOJ does not want those requirements. Once that is processed, for lack of a better word, the data goes through a system of extracting, transformation, and loading. It's a solution, a third party that's separate than ArcGIS. This is also done by Dept for us. We haven't quite finished this finalization. There's still some errors that we're coming up with. They're giving me an ETA completion of that process about the end of February. So we're working through that. It should be ready by the time we're ready to submit in 2023. So where we are today, the mobile application again was designed and created by Dept. It's utilizing Survey 123 by Esri. RIPA training and test entries began in November of 2021. We deployed city devices and the officers were trained throughout December of 2021. And they started collecting their data January 1 of 2022. Our prepared report data to DOJ again won't start until April of 2023. But on the average we're doing right now, the last 17 days, 19 days of January, it's about 28 to 30 stop data collections that they're completing, which is on par for those who have it. So it seems to be working well. They're keeping clear of the rules and regulations, so we're able to get that moved and processed and packaged up so that we can send some data over to DOJ as a test data. We did the test data in November. And that is where we are.
Okay.
Any questions?
Great. Questions, comments?
Do we have public comment?
There are two public commenters. Before we turn to public comment, are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Members of the committee?
Yes, Mayor, if I could, one question would just be whether we've discerned anything from the data that would indicate the need for any new policies or any lack of compliance with what I would assume are our policies now, which is we do not engage in racial or ethnic profiling.
No, we haven't analyzed the data because we're collecting the data. So we haven't got to the point of analyzing to see if we need to change process, see if there's anything that we're doing different. We did want to make sure that the system is functioning correctly so that we can get that information out to DOJ.
If I may add,
So-
Councilmember Madison, we also added language to the policy, the racial profiling policy. We added the RIPA information to say that it's mandatory that this information gets collected. So it was combined with our racial profiling policy.
So, I would hope that we wouldn't wait for DOJ, but rather that we'd conduct some internal analysis of the data, again, to ensure what I believe to be the case, and I would expect to be told immediately if there were any evidence that we were engaging in any racial or ethnic profiling at all. So thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Hampton?
I was going to ask a similar question as Councilman Madison asked about the racial profiling piece. But before I ask that question, I want to make something clear or help me understand. In your presentation, I remember when this first came to us, Councilmember Kennedy was the chair of public safety, and myself and Councilmember Kennedy wanted to roll this out as soon as possible. And so I'm glad that we're rolling it out sooner than we actually are required to. So that's really good. That's a step in the right direction. But here on page 4 of your presentation, it says any detention. That means someone's been arrested.
No, any detention by an officer, that could be a traffic stop, that could be a stop on the street,
Okay.
you know, where a
So any,
person. I'm sorry.
so any stop. Oh, and so what if an individual does not receive a citation, a ticket, or anything? Just
That's still a stop and it's a reportable stop. And in the,
Okay.
where they would report that, they would indicate what the result of that stop was, that there was nothing that was done, there was no citation issued.
okay. And then my other question is, do they put this information, when do they put this information in their system? Is it after the stop is made or prior to them getting out of the car?
Officer safety is always for first and foremost, so they would most likely be putting in this, filling out their stop data collection after the stop occurred.
Okay. Is that that's the policy, or is that just when they're supposed to?
Well, there are questions within the collection data that are from start to finish. So their stop would have to actually be completed in order for them to complete the actual stop collection data, stop data in completion. Like it'll ask what happened during the stop, what happened after the stop, you know, was there items that were seized. So it's a complete summary of what that stop was. So the entire stop would have to, the entire incident would have to finish out before they could complete the data collection.
Thank you. And on your slides, the last slide, I mean, I say second to last, I think slide 7, it shows this platform. It looks like it's on a cell phone of some sort. Is it on the officer's personal cell phone that they make these?
This is a mobile device application, so it's not accessible to on a desktop. It is an actual mobile device, and yes, they are using city-issued mobile devices.
Okay, so they're using city-issued mobile devices. And I think that was oh, and what is so what does the process look like? I mean, do they go back in their car and then they put this in, or I mean, could you walk me through the process of how this would look? I mean, does this make a person's traffic stop longer, or?
Well, again, it would be at the end of their traffic stop if it were, you know, at the end of it. Let's take a traffic stop. So they would complete the traffic stop. They would, you know, gather the information. If there was a ticket to be issued, they would issue the ticket. Time allowing, if they didn't have to go to a call for service immediately after that traffic stop, then they could take the time to enter it there. There is a feature within the software application that they can start it so they know what date and time that they have, and then they can save it and get back to it when their time does allow, that they're not going from call to call or actively on some other call for service or a traffic stop.
And then April 1st, 2023 is when we'll report our data to the DOJ.
That's correct.
When does this data come back to the Public Safety Committee prior to that? I mean, I think this is something that we should have a look at every quarter, since we are now able to collect this data.
We're at the collection of data. We're looking at, once we submit to DOJ, we're looking at quarterly submitting to DOJ, so we're not waiting for that long period of time. And
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying for public, I'm so sorry. I meant to say for the Public Safety Committee.
Before we go to
on-
DOJ.
So be-
Before, yeah, I was wondering if we could have, come back to, maybe this is a question I should ask the mayor, not you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If we could have the data to come back to us quarterly, so that we could look at it as it's getting prepared to send it to DOJ.
Would it be possible for us to come back here before DOJ? Or do we have to submit to DOJ and then?
We're collecting the data for DOJ for RIPA. So past practices with other agencies has been that we give the data to DOJ once DOJ gets the data because that's their job, that RIPA board's job to analyze. Once we submit to them, then we could submit publicly or place it on our website is one of the areas that we're looking at after April 1 of 2023.
Right, and they also have the opportunity to see if they see any indication that we're profiling. So they take and analyze the data and report back to us whether or not they see something that looks as if we're profiling a particular race or demographic.
That's correct.
Well, no, what I'm trying to say is, as a city elected official here, or just as a community member, right? If you have 60% of your contacts are with African Americans in a city with a population of 12% African Americans, then you're obviously racially profiling. And that's why I'm asking for this information to come to us so that we can look at it. I mean, it's public information anyhow, right? I mean, we purchased this equipment. The data is being collected, so I don't see why
Right.
we can't see it in a public safety form before it goes to DOJ. You're going to still send the same information to DOJ. I'm not saying that we're going to scrub it, but before it goes to DOJ, maybe we see something, this time April or, in March, maybe we see something where like, you know what, we need to make some corrections and hopefully, in 3 or 4 months from now, we've seen that those corrections have made some positives so that when we turn in our information to DOJ, we're already making positive progress.
So currently,
That's if we are doing the racially profiling. I'm just speaking hypothetically.
yes, sir, I understand. Yeah, the data goes directly to DOJ. They have the capacity to do the analysis of the data that we're sending them, probably much better than we can. We still do rely on, excuse me, complaints and folks to come in if they feel as if they're being racially profiled or being harassed or any kind of way. We still have that in place. But as far as us just sitting down looking at the data, it'd be hard for us to determine what we're looking at, because if you the way it's done, it's the officer surmises after the stop of what they believed this person's identity was before the stop. So they may not always believe that it's a male African American or male Hispanic. So it just makes the data a little confusing for us. That's why we prefer DOJ to analyze it, because I think we get a better picture of what it really is.
Okay. So you said the officer has to surmise what the race of the person was before they stop them.
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
I mean,
It's a perception.
So then when I asked the question earlier, how do they fill out the information? The answer that was told to me was, or at least what I recall, was at the end of their stop. That's when they fill out all the information. So it sounds like they have to fill out information before they even get out of the car.
Right. If they were to take the information down before, say, on a traffic stop, it would delay that traffic stop too long. They'd be outside the law trying to sit there and fill out this form. Right. So
I'm sorry. I'm just trying. So if I pull someone over and I think that they're black, I put I think they're black, and then I get out and then I fill out the rest of the information, right?
right.
There's an area where they fill out the information and it's all perceived. And on slide 8, I'm sorry, slide 8, those are the requirements that DOJ does ask for us. They're all perception of race or ethnicity, perception of age or gender, and you can kind of go down through the list. What the DOJ does not require is what the actual is. So there's not ever a place to say, I thought it was this, but it was really this. It's all based on perception.
Oh, the perception of what they were.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm really kind of confused with what this data gets us then. If I pull over someone who is African American, when I get their driver's license and it says that they're black on it, right? Or whatever race they are, and I think because they're fair complected, they are white or Latino, I'm going to put down the information that they were white or Latino.
That's correct. That's the
I would
requirements that
never
DOJ
really-
is asking for.
So then I would never really know if I'm pulling over someone. That's mind-boggling to me. That doesn't. How does that? So we don't ever put their actual driver's license information in the
Not-
system, like to say their actual based on their driver's license that they were a black male.
No, the actuals of what they find out at the end, whether it's their driver's license or whatever other identifying information that they have, does not go into this data collection for DOJ. It's all the perceptions of the officer before they have the stop, the search, or the encounter.
So if I pull over someone who's obviously black, and I pulled over someone, I'm just speaking in hypotheticals nationwide because this is a nationwide. It sounds like this is a nationwide DOJ thing, right?
Yes.
No,
That's statewide.
DOJ is statewide. It's
I'm sorry, statewide. I'm sorry,
It's
I meant to say
California.
statewide. I apologize. I meant to say statewide.
California DOJ?
Yes.
Right, California. So if I keep on pulling over black people and I only say I think they were white,
The
how does
data,
that cause? How does that fix the racial bias problem?
the data's only good as what's submitted, sir. I don't think GOJ
Okay,
has
so
worked
now-
their way through that yet.
But so the data is not our data at all. Is that what you're telling me? When it goes into the system, we don't even see what our officers are putting in.
All we see is that the data was collected. So if this officer had 10 traffic stops, we can look and see that they completed 20 RIPA cards, but we won't necessarily see the data on the card. It just shows, yeah, a card was collected.
And what
So-
we're looking for before we send it to DOJ is to make sure there's no personal identifying information.
Okay. And so on our end, now that we have this data, and this is the question I used to ask from before RIPA. I mean, I don't know how this. It sounds crazy to me, but I'm going to ask this question now that we have a way to collect this data of what race a person is, because I've asked that before when we make traffic stops. Hey, what race is this person? And the previous police chiefs would say, well, we don't have a system to be able to collect that data for the city of Pasadena. Shouldn't we also collect our own data? Shouldn't we have something that's mirroring this so that we could have our own data?
Well, we'll have
Yeah, we
access
could do
to
better.
it, but it goes to DOJ in the first
Correct.
instance, and the
That's correct.
analysis is conducted
Yes.
by DOJ. And I would guess so that they can compare us to like cities,
Correct.
and then make a determination as part of their analysis.
No.
But the information would be available to the public and the city council,
Yes.
right, ultimately.
After submitted to DOJ, yes.
And with the
Right.
DOJ analysis.
What I'm saying is, our police officers are not DOJ's police officers. They're City of Pasadena police officers. Our policies are not the state of California who decides that, this is how we're going to do it. If we're already collecting this data, right, and we have a way to data now, when our officers pull over someone and they look at their identification, are they able to? I'm assuming in most cases when they pull someone over, they have a driver's license. Are we now able to collect the data for ourselves to say we have pulled over a Caucasian male, a black male? That's what I'm asking for the city of Pasadena. Are we able to collect that data ourselves now?
Mayor, I'm sorry to interject here, but can I just, I don't believe driver licenses contain race or ethnicity.
They do not.
I'm a little confused by the question.
That's correct. The driver's license, they do not. They have just your name. I don't even know.
Okay.
Do they still have gender?
Okay, are we able to? I'm not even looking at my driver's license.
I'm gonna look at
Yeah,
you.
and I certainly don't think we want to start interrogating people about their race or ethnicity. I don't really see any role for us there. I think that would be a poor policy.
I think the thing is that they're trying to figure out if there's racial profiling happening. If I just say that I pulled over this guy and I thought he was, someone pulled me over and they said, "Oh, I thought he was white." I mean,
Mayor, if I
I'm laughing about it because I'm just like, I mean, this sounds noble. It sounds great, but in actuality, if I'm just saying, "Oh, I thought it was this,"
Ms. Kurtz?
I just don't.
If
I
I-
don't see I don't see what they're trying to ultimately solve if you're not just saying, "Okay, I pulled over this person. His name was Tyrone Hampton. He's African American." Versus, I pulled over this person's name was Tyrone Hampton. I think he was Latino.
Mr. Hampton, if you'll just allow Ms. Kurtz to respond.
And
Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to suggest that, I mean, we are getting into a field of data collection and analysis that we've not done before. I don't think we know how it's going to be analyzed. I don't think we know what we see. And before we start trying to collect additional data, I might suggest that we start this program along the lines that we are being told that we must. That information will come back to the Public Safety Committee and the council with the analysis. If it is not proving to be valuable, then we can talk about what else should we do. But to try to adjust at this point when we're really scrambling to figure out how to do what the law is requiring us, I think would get us to a place where we might end up in a worse place than we would if we did it maybe in stages. I certainly understand, Councilmember Hampton, what you're saying. When I first heard this presentation to the Oversight Committee, I too questioned, how will this work and what will it tell us? But we need to do it, and I think we should try it. And then as we see value added, add to it and make it something that works for Pasadena. If what we collect for the DOJ is not what works for Pasadena.
Yeah, am I correct to say that this is, initially, we're just complying
Yes.
with the state law? And then as the city manager points out later, we may want to refine, but initially, it's a compliance matter. And it might be helpful to answer some of these questions if you were to circulate the legislative intent behind the law.
Okay.
And I suspect that, well, I would hope that the legislative intent would answer some of the questions that are being posed.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. Any other, Mr. Hampton, I think if, given the level of interest, I think a good place to start would be the legislative intent, and we'll circulate that and then circle back once we have data for a presentation to see how the program is working, what the might be from DOJ.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Great. Is that acceptable, Mr. Hampton, Mr. Madison?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I think that, two public comment cards we do have.
I would like to report that the city clerk's office received one letter of correspondence, which was distributed to the committee, posted online, and made part of the public record. The first public speaker is Chris Okerhauser.
Ms. Obershauser, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Yes, Can you hear, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yes, I am speaking for CCOP this evening. And basically, what I want to say is what I've said in the letter. As Pasadena starts this year-long survey of pedestrian and traffic police officers, re possible racial profiling and identity profiling, the coalition, the CCOP, wishes to remind us all of the history of racial profiling in Pasadena and hopes that this will be the end of it. We remember that Pasadena has conducted 2 citywide surveys in 2005 and 2015 on police community relations following controversial police killings of Black men. The 2016 survey report, Community Perceptions of Policing in Pasadena, or the Graziano report, reported 47% of those polled and that said they believe local police officers treat whites and the wealthy better than minorities and the poor. The Pasadena Weekly reported that, quote, African Americans by far had the most negative perceptions of local police. 70% of those polled said they believed the police engaged in racial profiling. 60% of Black respondents said they believed police stopped people for no good reason. 53% found verbal and physical abuse to be a problem, and 37% said they found offensive language to be an issue during the encounters with the police. Only 29% of white residents found racial profiling to be a problem. 39% of all respondents ranked racial profiling as their biggest concern in interactions with the police. This was from her 2015 survey. It was the report that was given to City Council in 2016. In 2019, Pasadena Attorney John Burton, using the police department's own figures, showed clear racial profiling by Pasadena Police Department. And I quote from a newspaper article, according to Burton's data, 43 Hispanic and 31 African American motorists were told to get out of during traffic stops in 2016, 2017, and the first half of 2018, while information about them was recorded by officers on field interview cards. 2 white motorists were removed from their vehicles and subjected to field interviews during that time period. 15 of the people were told to get out of their cars and sit on a curb while their vehicles were being searched and were arrested. According to Burton, quote, these data show that with 2 exceptions, only Black or Hispanic motorists were pulled over and they almost never received a traffic citation.
Your time has expired. Please.
Hello?
Go ahead and finish your comment, Ms. Okershazer.
Yeah, I just have 2 sentences. Were frequently subjected to the disgusting practice of curbing or forcing people out of their cars and having them sit on curbs while their vehicles are searched. Burton said in an online post, it is important to note that these traffic stops were based on race and not on any criminal activity other than alleged traffic infractions. So we bring these to public interest, out of public interest of what the context is that we're doing this review of possible racial profiling here in Pasadena. And I thank you for the opportunity to make my remarks.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Bonnie Skolnick.
Yes, I'm Bonnie Skolnick, a 46-year resident of Pasadena, although I'm actually much older myself. I'm just going to mention some data from the state that much more recent from some of the larger police departments, of which Pasadena is not part of yet. I don't think it ever will. The RIPA surveys of stops data of the larger departments show a pattern. Oh, this is based upon 2020 data, even though the annual report is called a 2022 report. So it's racial profiling by California law enforcement officers. The RIPA report shows stops data as officers search detained on the curb or in a patrol car, handcuffed and removed from vehicles, more individuals perceived as black than individuals perceived as white, even though they stopped more than double the number of individuals perceived as white than individuals perceived as black. That was interesting. When officers search stopped individuals of racial or ethnic groups of color, with the exceptions of Asian, Middle Eastern, and South Asian, the other racial minorities were searched at a high rate, despite having lower rates of discovering contraband compared to individuals perceived as white. And this is all documented. So I think the primary focus, and could have been the legislative intent, is to understand data on stops for traffic violations that may form the basis of a pretext stop, in which an officer stops a person ostensibly for a traffic violation or minor infraction, but with the actual intention of using the stop to investigate based on a hunch rather than on reasonable suspicion or probable cause. The board goes on to where the legislation goes on to call on policymakers and leaders to consider ways to eliminate pretext stops and thereby reduce any potential from harm stemming from such stops. So we do care, I care deeply about this beautiful city and would like to have a beautiful police department to match. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Skolnick. Okay. Next speaker.
Heavenly Hughes.
Ms. Hughes.
Please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, Mayor Victor Gordo. Is that Cynthia Kurtz there as well?
That's what she said.
Yes,
Hello,
I am.
Cynthia Kurtz. Hi, how are you all? So yeah, racial profiling. We know that it's a major problem right here in Pasadena. And I'm thankful for, and I echo the comments previously made. Please forgive me because I just had my thoughts together but didn't write them down. But I will say that I'm just going to use an experience of my daughter who works there in Pasadena. And she shares with me that she is so fearful of racial profiling, being a Black woman in Pasadena, that whenever she sees the police, whether she's driving on the street or on the freeways, she pulls off of the freeway or off of the street, waits 3 to 5 minutes before she continues driving because of racial profiling, because we're accustomed to the fear of being pulled over by the police because we are Black. And I guess that's the main thing I would like to share at this very moment, is just how this is affecting my family and how racial profiling affects my daughter's daily life right in Pasadena. I appreciate you guys taking the time to address this. I hope that you guys get all the data and be transparent of what is revealed when it comes to racial profiling. The previous callers talked about how when they see people, or we see people pulled over, more often than not, it is Black people in handcuffs on the sidewalk, sitting on display and humiliated. So I hope that these conversations will bring a change in our community, in fairness when it comes to justice in our community. And Mayor Victor Gordo, I have been waiting to hear from you. Will you be calling me soon?
Will I be calling you soon?
Hello, Mayor Victor Gordo?
Yeah, I've called you
Yeah,
and I'll call you again.
I didn't, I appreciate it because I didn't see a missed call from you.
Okay,
I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you so much.
sure.
Next speaker is Alan Shea. Please unmute, *6. Mr. Shea, please unmute, *6.
Alan,
Can you hear me?
we can now.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to thank the committee and certainly Chief Moody, Mayor Victor Gordo, and certainly City Manager Cynthia Kurtz. We had a chance to review the video that was released on Monday, and we commend the officers for taking the actions they did as it relates to Devon Hall. So I want to thank you and share that with the community. I also want to bring up to date that on Friday, I was on the corner of Walnut and Mar Vista, and the police drove by me and another gentleman, Michael Sanford. He's a well-known athlete. I think Victor would definitely know their legacy over at PHS. He and I had breakfast. We were going over some things, and we were standing outside for about 20 minutes. The police drove by a number of times, and we thought that was pretty weird. And then they drove by us really fast, and I got in my vehicle and went ahead to my destination. And my destination was right down the street from where they stopped a young man near PCC, jumped out of their car with their guns blazing, told him to get on the ground. They frisked him, put handcuffs on him, checked his backpack, then they released him. Then when he walked down the street toward me and Michael, we asked him if he was okay. He was so traumatized, I could not believe it. And he said, they said to him that they stopped him because they said a black man had a gun walking on the street. I couldn't believe that happened.
Alan, if you could
In
tie
front
it
of
to this,
me,
if you could
over
tie
here,
it to this agenda item.
I thought this was my public comment item. I'm sorry, I just came into the meeting.
No worries.
So that is what I wanted to express in my public comment. So
Okay.
I apologize, but I just came into the meeting, and so I heard my name being called. But as to the profiling issue here, I think definitely whatever we can do to help bring clarity to this issue and transparency, I definitely support it. I'm getting some feedback on my phone, so I will end this conversation and just follow you on my Zoom.
Thank you. Now, I do owe a call to, Alan, so I'll call you tomorrow.
Thank you, Victor. I appreciate it.
Okay, all right, does that complete
Yeah.
public comment? That completes public comment and our agenda. Thank you, and we'll look forward to hearing more and seeing more as this program unfolds and rolls out. Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Thank you, Chief.
By the way, with that presentation, I thank them for the presentation, and I'm glad that we're rolling it out sooner than we're supposed to. So that's really good news. I sent you an email a while back after the implementation of ShotSpotter And also, during the meeting before ShotSpotter, I talked about potentially the city looking at cameras,
Yeah.
not for public surveillance or anything like that, but working with neighbors that want to get Ring cameras or something similar to that within their neighborhoods. And I was wondering when that would get on the agenda.
Yeah, I did see that, and I did talk with the city manager, and the city manager and the staff are preparing a presentation to come forward, and that way we have all the information that's needed.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Thank you.
Cynthia.
I could just add a little as far as the question on timing, Councilmember Hampton. We will be doing the training, or the ShotSpotter company will be doing the training of our officers the end of this month. They have all the data now about where shots have been fired, and they will be determining the rollout of where that system should be placed in the city. That's not our decision. They're going to look at where, given what they know about our data and their equipment, it would be the most effective. I expect that's going to happen in the first half of February. I think knowing where the data points us as far as ShotSpotter will give us information about what areas we might consider for adding doorbell.
Incentivizing neighbors.
Yeah, incentivizing neighbors or offering to neighbors, should they choose to participate, the Ring doorbell type of equipment. So we need a few more steps, but it is moving along. And certainly by the end of February or early March, I would hope that we could come back to this committee with both recommendations on areas and budget, which would give us time to build that into our budget.
Yeah, I was hoping we could have it on today's agenda, but I was convinced by the city manager that it's better to bring him that once it's been looked at in conjunction with ShotSpotter. ShotSpotter is what makes it impactful and effective, the combination of the two programs. So let's see what the staff comes back with, and we'll bring that forward.
We're very supportive of the program. The police department and the city manager's office are both very supportive of the program.
Yeah, I'm just, as these incidents have happened, and it seems like they're happening, and very close to one another, time is of the essence, and we need to react now, and not just be reactive, but also, give our residents the opportunity to participate in stopping crime and these type of incidents happening in our city. So thank you.
Yeah. So more to come on that. Mr. Bannon, are we adjourned? Did you have any?
Yeah, Mayor, I also recall that in our last meeting of 2021, there was an item on firefighter retention, and we were going to bring that back as well. So I assume that'll be coming forward.
I don't recall that. Looking at the clerk, I'll coordinate with the clerk. I don't recall that, but
I may be confused, and that may have already come back to us, but
we do have a proposal. We do want to come back. Our fire chief wants to come back and speak to the committee about the evacuation plans that he has been putting together for different areas. And he asked if a February meeting would be timely for the Linda Vista plan. So if that works on your agenda, I might speak to him about talking about retention at that time, if the committee would like.
Yep, we should check the minutes, because that was the item that I think I had in my head, but I was also recalling retention as being an issue. So thank you.
Certainly.
Thanks very much.
yeah, we'll look at both. Okay, with that, thank you everyone, and hope you all have a pleasant evening, and we'll see you, if not before then, at Monday's council meeting. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry. We are adjourned.
Goodbye.